Welcome back to Gamescape 3D. We're going to do a quick tutorial on speed painting our low profile riverbanks. Uh, Here is a couple of them and how they turned out. I did go in a little bit of a different direction. Whoops, a little bit of a different direction with these. Fortunately, it paid off. So we'll get into taking a look at this. So your first step is going to be, I always print in black, which is what I did here. And then I primed these in straight red oxide without any kind of zenithal top coating with that. And I'll run the 30-second video of me spray painting these. The full set has 21 pieces. You do have to spot primer the rocks with the way I'm going to do it. So that's going to put your whole time footprint at around probably 4 hours to get the whole set done. You're probably looking at an hour for flocking, washing, dry brushing, and then 2 or 3 hours for spot painting the rocks if you choose to go in that direction. Now at this point the primer is done. Um, I'm going to spot paint the rocks with very light gray. This would typically be the sort of gray I might use to dry brush highlights on stone. So I'm going even lighter than usual, and I'm doing that over a very dark primer, which is fairly unorthodox, but I don't know, sometimes you gotta shake it up, you know? So I didn't know if it'd really work out. In terms of this top coating, I'm not really, oops, let me get back over here. I'm not really worried about preserving too much of the details. I'm just doing coverage. If some bleeds through from the bottom, I think that's fine. But I think it'll work out very good if you don't have that going on. So I'm kind of using a big brush just to save time to hit these outer, this is like the riverbank side. So I don't have to worry about hitting any of the areas where the stone is merging in with the grass. So all three of these pieces I'm painting, they're my last ones. They're all convex hard turns. Switch over to a easier brush there in a minute. First, I'm going to go ahead and paint all these tops. We'll go ahead and what do you call it? We'll go ahead and time lapse this part while I get these three parts. All right, so we're done spot painting our banks. The next thing we're going to do is a wash. All I'm doing on the wash is a straight black and burnt umber mix. Nothing magic there. And then we just let it dry. Okay, I got a little bit of extra water in there and a little bit of gel matte medium as well. Spray these guys up. Bring it over here. And this is going over the whole thing. It's going to take about 2 seconds, and then we just gotta, it's going to be a little while letting this part dry. So I might come back tonight to do the dry brushing and flocking, or I might just do it first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee. Now, we already coated them primarily with very light gray. So we're going to be, let's see here, where's my white? Adding even more white to this. So we'll just kind of do it on the fly. I'm just going to dump some white here on the side. Okay, that's more than enough. Make a decision about a dry brush here. I might use this big one again. Let's see here. I might just put some white out there with the gray. Just kind of mix it on the fly. Maybe make a couple of different tones. I don't necessarily want to cover up everything, but some areas I might want heavy coverage and just let some of the cracks come through. It's not like any specific rules, especially kind of on these outer edges. I like to dump a little extra white out there, give it a little extra punch. And I didn't use adaptive layers, so I got some heavy lines. Those areas maybe I want to use extra paint to kind of white out those lines on my tabletop. Maybe if you use adaptive layers, though, you won't have to deal with that at all. Okay, so like, I think that's okay right there. The next step of this is I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing into the ground. And I'm going to use a very stark dry brush, which is also kind of non-standard. Usually you don't go way out of your value system when you're doing that, but there we are. So I'm using a raw sienna with a bunch of white dumped in it. It's a straight tube raw sienna. Straight tube white. Okay. I'm just going to go around. This paint's a little wet. It's more of a wet wash right now than a dry brush. We'll see if we can. Sometimes when you first start out with these things, you just don't have the right paint consistency on those first few strokes, I find, when you're dry brushing, which no big deal. We're flocking over this, so don't feel bad about working those issues out right on the terrain. This isn't, it doesn't have to go everywhere. I do want to use it to highlight any ground cracks, so. Okay, so I might go ahead and add a little variety here and there. All right. Let's stick with that. No reason to go nuts with that because we're going to be flocking over a ton of this ground area, okay? All right. So now I'll do this to my last two parts. And by then, the first one should be dry. We can go ahead and flock it real quick. Some stones here I'm going to add. Set that all up. Get all that done one. Okay. Um, like I've done before, I have a mix of gel medium, matte gel medium. I mix with water and I just kind of keep it around. I'm just gonna dump some of this out here on the side. This does have a spray bottle on it, but eventually, with the gel medium that clogs up and it's useless. So it just kind of ends up being a container. Now I'll just pick a brush, and I think I might pick that one I was doing just that small makeup brush I was using for the ground. And what I'm going to plan on doing is I want to flock kind of irregular. I definitely want some ground coming through. Usually where there's cracks, it's the area that has the most, I guess things that are kind of interesting to look at. So if there's any little gullies or interesting ground texture, I'll usually decide to leave that. I'll usually go ahead and flock along the edge here, the connector edge, since those are mirrored edges. So they have to run into the next piece over. So it's going to look weird if it's like an abrupt end to grass and you have ground there. So those areas I just cover up. Okay. A little bit here on the edge. So yeah, it's kind of inconsistent. And of course, the flock will reveal where I painted the gel medium and where I didn't. Let's see what you got there. All right. So there we go. Okay. I'm going to leave you at this point. It's a very brief speed painting little demo. If you want yours to look like mine, just do this a whole bunch of times. Okay. All right. You guys have a good day.